In 1468 BCE, along the eastern coast of the Mediterranean, in a Phoenician city we now call Tyre, workers were dying slowly from a smell that never left their skin. They spent their days crushing the shells of a small sea snail, millions of them, to extract a single drop of liquid from a gland near its body. It took roughly 9,000 snails to produce enough dye to color the trim of a single garment. The process reeked so badly that dye works were legally required to operate outside city walls, because the smell of rotting shellfish was said to make entire neighborhoods unlivable. And yet, kings paid more for this liquid than for gold. They called it Tyrian purple. And for the next 2,000 years, it would become the most ruthlessly protected color in human history, a color so expensive, so tightly controlled, that wearing it without permission could, in some empires, get you killed. By the time of the Roman Empire, Tyrian purple had become a matter of law, not fashion. Under a series of sumptuary laws, Roman emperors restricted the deepest, most saturated purple togas to the emperor alone. Senators were permitted only a narrow purple stripe. Ordinary citizens were forbidden from wearing purple at all. The Emperor Nero reportedly went so far as to threaten death for anyone outside the imperial family caught wearing the full Tyrian shade. A punishment far more extreme than anything reserved for lesser fashion offenses. Why such extremity over a color? Because in a world before synthetic dye, purple was, quite literally, unfakeable. You could not mass-produce it. You could not counterfeit its depth. If you were wearing true Tyrian purple, everyone around you understood instantly that you commanded a level of wealth and power that ordinary trade could not buy. Purple didn't just represent power. For over 1,000 years, purple was the only visual proof of it that couldn't be forged. Here is where the story turns from history into the human mind. Unlike red or blue, purple is genuinely rare in nature. Very few plants, animals, or minerals produce a true, deep purple pigment. Which meant that for most of human history, before chemistry caught up with desire, purple simply could not be manufactured cheaply, no matter how badly a civilization wanted it. And this scarcity did something interesting to the human brain. Psychologists studying color perception have long noted that rarity itself amplifies perceived value, a phenomenon closely tied to what behavioral economists call scarcity bias. When something is difficult to obtain, the brain doesn't just register it as rare. It reclassifies it as desirable, often independent of the object's actual usefulness. Purple, in other words, may be the first color in human history that our brains learned to crave, not because of the way it looked, but because of how hard it was to get. This is the idea that reframes everything you're about to see. Purple's power was never really about the color itself. It was about controlled inaccessibility, and every civilization that has used purple since has been replaying the exact same psychological trick, just with new excuses for scarcity. Once you see this pattern, you'll notice it isn't confined to ancient Rome. It repeats, almost identically, across 2,000 years and half a dozen civilizations that had no contact with one another. Byzantine Empire. Emperors continued the Tyrian tradition so intensely that the phrase, born in the purple, porphyrogenitus, became the literal term for royal children born while their parents sat on the throne, delivered in a chamber reportedly lined with porphyry, a purple stone. Legitimacy itself was tied to a color. Ancient China. Purple held a strange, almost contradictory status. For a long period it was actually considered an impure, artificially blended color in Confucian thought. Mixing red and blue rather than being a pure, primary hue. Yet by the Tang dynasty, purple robes had become the mark of the highest-ranking officials in the imperial court, second only to the emperor's own colors, precisely because dyeing techniques capable of producing rich purple remained rare and difficult to master. Medieval Catholic Church. Bishops and cardinals adopted purple and violet vestments, particularly during the seasons of Advent and Lent, associating the color with penance, solemnity, and proximity to divine authority, again reserved for the highest ranks of religious hierarchy, not ordinary worshippers. European royal courts, 16th to 18th centuries. Even after the fall of Rome, sumptuary laws restricting purple persisted across Europe. In Elizabethan England, strict dress codes legally prohibited anyone outside the immediate royal family from wearing certain shades of purple silk, enforced not by custom, but by statute. 1856, London. Everything changed in a cramped home laboratory. An 18-year-old chemist named William Perkin, attempting to synthesize a malaria treatment, accidentally created a brilliant synthetic purple dye, later named Mauveine. For the first time in human history, purple could be manufactured cheaply, in bulk, by anyone with the right chemical process. Victorian fashion, late 1850s onward. Within just a few years, mauve became a full-blown craze across Britain and Europe, so widespread that satirical magazines mocked what they called mauve measles, sweeping the population. The color that had been forbidden to commoners for 2,000 years was suddenly available in every dress shop in London. Modern branding. In the 20th and 21st centuries, brands like Cadbury and later Yahoo, Twitch, and countless luxury cosmetics companies deliberately chose purple, leaning on its centuries-old association with premium status and rarity, even though, thanks to Perkin's discovery, purple dye is now among the cheapest to produce. Every one of these examples circles back to the same mechanism. Purple's meaning was manufactured by scarcity, then preserved by habit long after the scarcity itself disappeared. Here is the thread tying the entire episode together. Purple did not earn its status through beauty. It earned it through artificial scarcity, and the human brain, once trained to associate a color with rarity, keeps responding to that training long after the rarity is gone. This is the exact same psychological pattern that would later power diamond marketing campaigns, limited edition sneaker drops, and luxury handbag waitlists. Purple simply got there first, 3,000 years earlier. Here is where the story takes its darkest turn. Some historians and toxicologists have proposed a striking hypothesis, that a handful of ancient and early modern elites who wore concentrated purple and violet pigments over long periods may have suffered mild, chronic exposure to certain heavy metal-based compounds used in some purple and violet pigment production, particularly in later centuries when manganese and other mineral-based violets entered use. This remains a debated and not fully proven historical hypothesis rather than settled fact, and researchers caution against overstating any single case. But the broader pattern is well documented. Throughout history, the pursuit of rare pigments, not just purple, but also certain vivid greens and yellows, sometimes came at a genuine physical cost to the artisans producing them, and occasionally to the elites who wore them in concentrated, repeated use. Which means the very inaccessibility that made purple so desirable may not have simply been an economic accident. In some documented cases across history, the pursuit of rare color came with real, physical danger, and the people at the top of the social hierarchy were, in certain instances, quite literally suffering for the privilege of looking powerful. Scarcity, in other words, wasn't just expensive. On occasion, in specific historical contexts, it was hazardous. And still, people wanted it. You would think that once synthetic purple became cheap and universally available after 1856, its psychological hold would have faded entirely. It hasn't. It has simply moved into new arenas. In luxury branding today, purple remains one of the most deliberately deployed, premium, colors. Used by cosmetics brands, tech companies, and streaming platforms specifically to borrow the color's ancient association with rarity and status, even though the dye itself now costs almost nothing. In digital interfaces, purple gradients have become a dominant visual language for technology brands positioning themselves as innovative, premium, or slightly futuristic, a modern echo of the same, "This is not for everyone," signal purple has carried for 3,000 years. In fashion, limited edition, and exclusive drop marketing, regardless of color, operates on precisely the same scarcity mechanism that once made purple priceless. Manufacture desire not through genuine rarity, but through the perception of it. In social psychology, this broader pattern is studied under the umbrella of scarcity-driven valuation, the well-documented tendency for humans to assign higher worth to objects, experiences, or opportunities specifically because access to them is limited, regardless of intrinsic value. So what does research actually tell us about why scarcity affects the brain this way? Behavioral economists, notably in foundational scarcity research popularized by Robert Cialdini's studies on influence and persuasion, have documented that perceived scarcity reliably increases perceived value and desirability across a wide range of goods and experiences. A well-replicated finding in consumer psychology, though researchers note the effect size varies depending on context and individual differences. From an evolutionary psychology perspective, some researchers have proposed that this bias may trace back to genuinely adaptive reasoning in resource-scarce ancestral environments, where rare resources, certain foods, tools, or materials, were often correlated with real value or survival advantage. It's important to note this evolutionary explanation remains a plausible hypothesis rather than definitively proven mechanism. From an evolutionary psychology perspective, some researchers have proposed that this bias may trace back to genuinely adaptive reasoning in resource-scarce ancestral environments, where rare resources, certain foods, tools, or materials, were often correlated with real value or survival advantage. It's important to note this evolutionary explanation remains a plausible hypothesis rather than definitively proven mechanism. On the purely visual side, purple sits at the edge of human color perception. It's produced by the simultaneous stimulation of both the red and blue cone cells in the retina with minimal green stimulation, a combination that occurs less frequently in nature than pure blues, greens, or reds. Some vision scientists suggest this relative visual rarity may compound a cultural rarity, reinforcing purple's unusual, almost anomalous status in human perceptual experience. Though this remains an area of ongoing study rather than settled consensus. Think about the last time you felt genuinely drawn to something purple. A luxury skincare bottle. An app icon that felt more premium than its competitors. A streaming platform's brand color. A limited edition sneaker or a bag with a waitlist longer than the product deserved. You likely never consciously thought, I am responding to a 3,000-year-old scarcity signal originally reserved for emperors. But somewhere beneath conscious thought, that is precisely the mechanism being activated, the same one that made Roman senators wear only a narrow stripe of purple while their emperor wore the whole robe, the same one that made Victorian London go mad for mauve the instant it became affordable, then quietly move on to craving the next scarce thing instead. Purple taught your brain how to want. And it never stopped teaching. Purple was never really about beauty. It was about permission. For most of human history, it was the color that told everyone around you exactly where you stood, who could wear it, who couldn't, who had bled or paid or ruled enough to earn it. And when that barrier finally collapsed in a London laboratory in 1856, purple didn't lose its power. It simply proved something even stranger, that scarcity, once it teaches the brain to want, doesn't need to be real anymore to keep working. We think we're choosing purple because we find it beautiful. More often, we're responding to a signal first broadcast by dying snails and jealous emperors, 3,000 years before any of us were born, and somehow, it's still working on us today. But not every color in this story earned its power through scarcity. One color did something far stranger. It became the color of warning signs, monks' robes, prison jumpsuits, and the most dangerous stretch of the visible spectrum humans can safely stare at, all at once. A color that can make food look irresistible in one culture, and completely inedible in another. A color that sits, quite literally, on the edge of visibility itself. The last shade your eye can register before it slips into something you were never meant to see. Next time, on Language of Colors, we uncover the secret history of orange.